Thursday. And then it starts at noon on Friday. And Kathy will be back on the weekend. Definitely out of Florida. Oh, Panama City. Yeah, where? Well, there's one on both sides. Oh, there is. Yeah. We got it. I know.
No, I mean with the finance.
Good morning still. Welcome to St. John's Lutheran Church. We are going to record this, so and it will be on our website, or what? Not on our website, but on a YouTube channel that I'll send out later today or tomorrow. So thank you all for coming for this important meeting. And what was it? Oh, I was originally going to start with a prayer, but I'm not. Buzz gave us an incredible devotion during our council meeting last week, so we're going to give Buzz the podium, to lead us, in a devotion, which is a prayer to set the tone.
Good morning.
You might want to use. Sorry.
As Pastor Rick said, he asked me to share the devotional that I wrote for Tuesday's council meeting. And looking for inspiration, I came on an article that was written by a woman who was looking at a tough decision regarding her daughter and education options. And it cited a sermon series that her pastor had done with a number of quotes from Proverbs. That I read those and felt some of them in particular lend itself to the situation we find ourselves in. So the first was Proverbs 29:18, which says, "Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint, but blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instructions." And I feel that is telling us to approach our decisions, these decisions we're looking at, prayerfully, asking that wisdom be revealed to us and that we not act rashly or from misguided motives. Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." And 11:14 reiterates this with, "Where there is no guidance, a people fall, but an abundance of counselors, there is safety." I feel this is telling us that We shouldn't feel that we, either alone or even corporately, have the sole answer to everything, but that we should seek the input of many counselors as we go through our discernment and seek to make a proper decision. Proverbs 21:5 tells us, the plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. I feel this pretty clearly tells us that we should be deliberate and take the time necessary to make wise decisions. 16:1 and 2 says, to humans belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue. All a person's ways seem pure to them, but motives are weighed by the Lord. In Proverbs 23:26 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet, and be steadfast in your ways. I feel this is calling us to examine our hearts and our motives as we approach this time of discernment and decision making. Proverbs 16:3 and 9 says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. In their hearts, humans plan the course, but the Lord establishes their steps. I feel this is telling us to trust in God and God's guidance and prayerful reflection. As Luther wrote in his morning prayer, I pray that you would keep me this day from sin and every evil, that all my doings in my life may please you. For into your hands I commend my body and soul and all things. Let us commend these decisions, this deliberation that we're undertaking, into God's hands and follow his guidance. And finally, Proverbs 16:6 says, through love and faithfulness, sin is atoned for. Through fear of the Lord, evil is avoided. Now, I don't think this is the fear of a vengeful, wrathful God who's going to come down and squash us if we make a wrong decision. Rather, the fear we have that our decisions may not live up to the promise of the more abundant life to which God calls us, and that we may disappoint our Maker. Taking our individual egos, prejudices, and biases off the table, let us strive to ensure that our decisions are guided by something greater than us, the Holy Spirit, which calls us and transforms us into the church of God in our community. To pray. Father God, it is through grace that we are here. We prayerfully ask for your guidance that we may reflect your grace in our community. Let our words, actions, and decisions bring glory and praise to you today and every day, through our risen Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Before I begin, I want to go ahead and introduce our council members. Buzz, Barb Lyman, Jennifer Terrell, David Crow, Shay Toon, Laura Conway. Am I missing somebody?
Mary Ann.
Oh, Mary Ann. Oh, there she is. I didn't see her. Mary Ann and Nick Price. I think that's everybody. And okay, I've just got a opening statement to kind of give, and then we're going to hear from Buzz again, and then we're going to hear from Pastor. First, I just want to thank y'all for taking the time to coming to this special meeting that we're having today. Today's meeting was called by the council to discuss with the congregation the stewardship of our church, meaning our time, talent, and treasures, before we ever received our gift of money. St. John's has been through quite a bit. Our tornado took our sanctuary, COVID lockdown, and the rebuilding of our church. We've been back in our building for 18 months now, and yet we still aren't quite operating as though we have come back together. We need to rebuild our family unit and get to know each other again. Council wanted to be proactive about this, and we decided to host the ministry fair in March, not only to showcase what St. John's is doing, because many people may not know what we're doing, and to offer opportunities for involvement. Time and talent sheets were distributed to give the congregation the opportunity to sign up where you wanted to become involved. We can't successfully run our ministries without participation from the congregation. We've also been making a push for everyone eligible to sign up to be an associate member for action teams. We have been able to do so much for St. John's and out into the community with these action teams, and we could do even more if we had more available to use. We need to become involved so that we can get to know each other and make our relationships, but also to grow the church both inward and out into our community. We ended 2023 with a negative balance of $24,967.84. And so far, January through March of 2024, we are negative $10,272.15, giving us a total of $35,239.99 to the negative. Council saw how we are continually in the negative and wanted to address this status now and not wait until November to discuss this with the congregation. We have been borrowing from special funds to make up our deficit each month. Continuing to do this, we will impact what St. John's can do, and we'll be out of money to borrow in about 3 years. So plain and simple, our treasures are not meeting our expenses. Council has tried very hard to keep our expenses low, but with even doing that, we still run into a deficit. Council is asking the congregation to prayerfully consider the status we are in and see if our treasures offered to the church could be increased to help meet our expenses and move us in an upward trend so that we're always meeting our expenses. Even with receiving a very wonderful gift of money, we must operate as though we do not have that gift. No decision will be made today about the gift, and no vote will be taking place. Council welcomes everyone's thoughts and suggestions about the gift. Council does not want to act in haste, so we have decided to place the gift into a CD for 4 months, earning 4.4% interest, so council has time to hear everyone and make informed decisions. When the CD matures, 10% of that gift will be set aside to tithe, a portion going to the synod, and the remainder of the 10% will be dedicated to help grow our ministries and community outreach. Council will then take a look at our financial status and determine what steps to then take. Turn over to Buzz.
Oh boy, you get me twice today. I don't know whether to say I appreciate the opportunity or extend condolences to you. Well, when you hear stewardship, I think a lot of people are mutter to themselves, great, somebody's gonna be asking us for money again. I don't want to disappoint you, so treasure will be part of what we address today. However, if you harken back to the temple talk that I gave earlier this year, I said I can visualize stewardship as a 3-legged milking stool, where each of the 3 legs, time, talent, and treasures, is just as important as the others in making the stool functional. If you shorten 1 or 2 of those legs, it's going to tilt to the point eventually where somebody can't sit on it, and eventually it'll reach a tipping point where it falls over. And if you cut all 3 of them too short, well, the stool ceases to be a stool and you find yourself sitting on the ground. In a sermon preached at a Berlin Harvest Festival in 1931, the pastor, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, stated, "Possessions are not God's blessing and goodness, but the opportunities of service which He entrusts to us." This in turn reflects the words of 1 Peter 4:10, which tell us, "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms." As Lutherans, we recognize that work and stewardship are not a substitute for the grace which we receive through Christ. But, indeed, it is a reflection of that grace. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and by the number of times he comes up, you may catch the point that he's a major example and a source of inspiration to me. In his book, The Cost of Discipleship, Dietrich Bonhoeffer stressed the difference between cheap and costly grace. Cheap grace is grace without discipleship. And he further said, the church is the church only when it exists for others. Not dominating, but helping and serving. It must tell men of every calling what it means to live for Christ, to exist for others. Some of us will remember earlier this year when Bishop Gordy was here, he told us that this congregation is known for our work in the community. Indeed, since the Middle Tennessee Emergency Response investigated us after the application for the grant and noted our efforts at sharing God's message of help and hope in our community, those actions are part of the reason we received this grant. Sharing God's message of help and hope, however, does require resources. And we help provide these resources that God has given us, as Dietrich Bonhoeffer again tells us, as opportunities of service. Now, I don't believe God wants us to deprive ourselves or our families through stewardship. But I also don't think that God doesn't want us to focus only on our own desires. And please note I said desires and not needs. We need to provide for ourselves and our families, but we also need to seek balance. As someone who has very strong codependent tendencies that were demonstrated through workaholism and as a career officer, I struggled for years before realizing that God did not want me to focus solely on my work and professional activities to the detriment of all other activities or aspects of my life. But God wanted me to wisely steward those resources of time and talent. I do believe that God calls us to make some tough decisions regarding those resources of time, talent, and treasure. Decisions that may push our boundaries, challenge our comfort, and challenge the status quo of our lives. Now, our congregation's stewardship needs are more than looking at what to do with this grant that we have received. The council, as Natalie said, looking at the past year plus of financial information, recognized a need and decided to call this meeting before we knew that we'd received this grant. Indeed, for a number of us, before we even knew if there was any possibility of it. And the fact that we have received the grant does not change the fact that we need to address stewardship. Because if we don't change anything, even with this grant, with this amazing resource we've received, we'll be back at the same point in a few years, having to face the same decisions. So our challenge is to prayerfully examine the resources to which God has entrusted us, and seeking balance in our lives, steward those resources to share God's message of help and hope. In my temple talk, I mentioned St. Damiano and the stones used to rebuild the church. St. Francis and the stones used to rebuild the church at San Damiano. Some of the stones bring forth may be plain, others may be crystals, shiny, attractive to look at, but all will be useful in rebuilding the walls of God's church. So I again ask you, what stone will you bring to help rebuild our church? And finally, regarding today's meeting, I remind everyone that there will be different ideas and different opinions expressed. And thinking of that, I was reminded to a set of rules that I kept framed and posted in my office from that great theologian, General Colin Powell, and his 13 rules. I'm going to cite just a few of those that I think are applicable here. First, remain calm and be kind. I think that speaks for itself. Second, have a vision and be demanding. Envision, individually and collectively, where and what you want this church to be, and challenge yourselves, ourselves, individually and collectively again, to meet that goal. Third, avoid having your ego so close to your position so that if your ego falls, or that if your position falls, your ego goes with it. This isn't about anybody's individual opinion, individual point of view. This is about discerning God's calling. Leave your egos at the door and don't be upset if someone feels differently than you. And finally, perpetual optimism is a force multiplier, substituting faithfulness for optimism. For if we seek to serve God, our efforts will be blessed. And I'll end again with a quote from Bonhoeffer. The first service that one owes to others consists of listening to them. Please be considerate and thoughtful of others as we seek discernment on this matter. Thank you, and Solomon.
I guess it's my turn. I don't know if I have much to say than I've already said, during the sermon. Worked really hard, wondering what to say and how to say it, and I said what I said. Paul, your friend's not here, is he? Wasn't that your?
Did he get a ride?
Oh, he didn't come with y'all?
He did.
Oh, he's not asking that, he's asking if he's in the room, he's not in the room.
Not in the room. Okay.
Oh, no, I mean, they brought their pastor friend, but I didn't know he was a pastor. Right?
Yes.
Yes, and, he said he liked the stewardship theme that we have going on here. And as I said in the sermon, we're not alone. And he made that very clear also from where he is. And I know what's going on around here, and throughout the Synod, and he's in South Pennsylvania, Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod. And he said they got the same issues there. And what you were saying, Buzz, about Bonhoeffer and everything you said, we really, church, and I said in the sermon, and I really believe this, if the church of Jesus Christ is going to survive, which it's going to, Jesus ain't going away, but as buildings and people, if the churches are going to survive and thrive, we got to get back to who and whose we are. That's what Bonhoeffer said. You have to define who you are, and what you're called to be, and that is, to help our world know a different view of life. It's not going to make it easier, but it can make it a little bit better as we go through. And I think I don't want to stand up here preaching, but I've had this conversation with the bishops and the other deans and so forth, and really, would you agree that we have a really good message about the gospel?
Yes.
Didn't sound real confident.
We're Lutheran.
We're Lutheran. Yeah.
We're allowed to speak.
And that might be the problem that churches have in general. And we're going to get to the gift thing, but I think that's the problem. We're not vocal enough. Do you think? We've been saved by grace, right? Nothing we have to do. Nothing. Do you believe that? Do Do you believe Ephesians 2:8 and 9? Okay, do you believe in Ephesians 2:10? Who knows what that says?
You do.
You are created in Christ Jesus for good works. That was been prepared for you from before creation. You know, the reason churches are having problems, we don't know the message. Or maybe we know it and we don't know how to share it. And that's why I'm so proud of what council is doing. We're taking this proactive stance to get us to know who and whose we are. That's why I do all the Bible studies and everything else that I do, you know, to help us to know who and whose we are. And that's why our council wants to get us back together. I mean, again, we're not alone. I mean, there's churches all around us throughout the world, you know, that they're still living in the pandemic and got very comfortable there, you know, but it's not helping. It's not helping us to live the life God calls us. That's why, you know, churches need, and I know it's a law word, but we need to come together to get to know each other. You know, to get to know, you know, Daphne, you know, had a wonderful comment for me 2 weeks ago. You know, and to Dan, who, you know, kind of did a little bit better than him on the golf course last week. But we got to know each other. We got to have a good time together. And churches overall have lost that. Have lost that. We're in a very unique opportunity. And there are many churches who would love to be where we are, financially. I mean, if you look at the books, we got about $600,000 or more in the bank. Is it closer to seven? Yeah, it's $670,000 in the bank, and 500 and some of that is undesignated money. We, you know, but as you said, Buzz, or you said, Natalie, we have to be the church and not rely on that money.
Yeah, we have to operate as though we don't have it.
We have to operate, and why do we have to operate as if we did not have that money?
It's never a given. Never gonna always have it.
Yeah, it's not always, you know, but what is the purpose of the church? It is to
Spread
make,
God's word.
it is to make disciples of all people, the Great Commission, you know. So I'm going to quit here in just a minute, but and we can talk about people's ideas, because we really want everybody's ideas about what we should do. You know, that's why we're going to take 4 months with that money sitting in a CD. Has it already been put in? Thank you, Laura. I mean, she's on top of it. You know, so we'll make a little bit more money, but we're going to take 4 months, you know, to talk about, you know, together. And every council meeting's open. You know who the council people are. You can call them, you can call me, we can have discussions, you know, and at the end of those 4 months, we might make a decision or we might not. We just don't know. We don't know how the Spirit is going to lead us. But where the Spirit is leading us is bringing us together. You know, we're going to do more fellowship events. I really want, and I think I have the right to say this, I would like everybody to sign up for an action team this week. To sign up, if you're not a member of Thrivent, to sign up. If you need $20, we'll give it to you. You know, we want people to get together to share stories of how we are helping people in our community. You know, I really want everybody to fill out a time and talent sheet, because it brings people together. And Katie, next time I'll let you know we're not going to do the first reading, you know, for the first time that she read, you know. So anyway, but we want people to get together, to get to know each other, to care for each other, you know, so we can learn more about each other, so we can reach out even more into this world. And again, if churches are going to survive and thrive, that's the only way it's going to happen. And I promise you it's not going to be easy, you know, and life is still going to be hard. There could be a World War III coming up, you know, in the very near future. It seems to be de-escalating, but you never know. There's an election coming up in about 6 months. And I'm so not looking forward to that, to be honest with you. I'm not. Because I don't, no matter who wins, there's going to be issues. And how are we going to deal with those issues? And I had that Sunday school class, and what do y'all want? What do you want for yourselves? What do you need? And the answer was, we don't know, because of all the crap going on in our world. And that's why I brought Dr. Hooper in. You know, to start talking about those things, to help us get together, to talk about the issues, to talk about how we can help each other. And that's what, you know, this fund, this gift that we are given, I don't know if it's a grant or a gift or whatever, from the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. Just about that gift. When I was at the Dean's Retreat this past Thursday and Friday, the Reverend Dr. Morgan Gordy, Bishop Emeritus's wife, came up to me and said, you got some money. We got that money. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. We talked about, they asked us at that meeting back in September, what could we do, what would we do, and we mentioned a few things. And it was in that letter that we sent out. But I said, we will continue to, this money, whatever it will be, will help us to continue to nurture and grow St. John's and our community. And Morgan Gordy, you know, who talks with people like the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee and other grant writers, she continued to tell our story. It's not just because Joseph Call saw a TV ad or whatever and told his mom, who told me and told others, and we got Jim to fill out the information, and she came and we talked. You know, then we didn't hear anything for about 2 or 3 months, did we? We thought it was dead and gone, never going to happen. But because of what we did, you know, throughout the pandemic, the rebuild, what we continued to do, you know, because the first words out of Amy Fair's mouth, right down at the door when she handed me an envelope, says, tell me about your housing ministry. Oh, yeah, we do room in the inn. No. Do y'all know that we're going to be housing people who's going to be coming from other states to rebuild, like in Madison and whatever? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. She knew, because she did her homework, you know, and Pastor Gordy, you know, kind of helped with that. But, you know, the reason, and I'm dead serious about this, the reason we are still here is because of what we're doing and what we did. But the problem has been with other churches, we got separated for the same reasons. And now it's time, and I'm again so proud of our council, to want to come together, to get us to come together so we can be the church God calls us to be. So, sorry for the second sermon today, but no, I'm not.
Pastor Rick.
Yes, ma'am.
Now that we've talked about all this wonderfulness,
Yes.
can somebody just give the basics, how this came about, how much money we got,
Yes.
how this all happened and all
Right.
that?
Well, because Joseph Call saw this organization on a news report saying they have money for organizations who were affected by the 2020 tornadoes. Okay? And we got in contact with them. I just kind of said this. You know, and then they met with us, and I just told you what that meeting went with, and blah, blah, blah. They came and gave us a check for $430,000. No strings attached. Here's the money. Do with it what you said you were going to do with it before, to build, you know, rebuild the community and ourselves. Does that answer your
Yes.
question? $430,000. Yes.
Where did that,
It's a nonprofit company who helps. You know, when they came to the meeting, correct me, Jim, or whoever was there, didn't they say they only had like 4 people who applied? And we didn't know how much money, well, they said they had a couple $1 million.
Right, this was money that, during the 2020 tornado, the first thing that this agency did was help the homeowners. And so if your home was destroyed or whatever, they had federal money and state money for that, okay? And about 2023, then they had a surplus. They had, this is what they told us, they had a surplus of money because they had handled all the homeowners, and so they were gonna concentrate on the churches. And so knowing that, then we filled out a request for approval, and gave them all of our information, financial information, why we wanted or could use the money and so forth and so on. That was in March of 2023. And as Pastor said, we didn't hear anything for a while, so we continue to follow up almost monthly until March of 2024. And then we heard that we were gonna be given this money with no strings attached. Yeah.
February, actually.
Yeah, February, yeah.
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 So that's where it came from. So I'd like to just maybe give it back to you or whatever to see what people, your name tag's upside down. To see what your thoughts are so we can get a record of what people would like to, what we could do with this. And again, as that letter that went out a couple of weeks ago, as Natalie said, we are not making decisions today. We're not taking any kind of votes. We just want to get everybody's input, even those online. So Gary, if anybody does a text or says something, let us know. We want to get everybody's input, so council can make a decision whenever we get to make that decision. So I'll just let Natalie kind of be back in charge and take people's thoughts about, about what to do.
Like we said, we've made no decisions on what to do with the money. The only decision we did make is that we felt we needed to tithe. So when that CD does come mature, we are gonna take 10% of that money, which would be 43,000, yes.
Having owned a house in the neighborhood since 1984, I remember coming by this church for several years, and the parking lot was full, and people were everywhere, and all of that. Have we ever considered getting a group of volunteers to take the names, addresses, and so on of all the people who were members here, and let's say it's a dozen people apiece that each one of us takes, and writing them, and getting their phone numbers and addresses, writing them letters, giving them a buzz, and so on, so that the invitation is more personal?
Well, we've reached out to some members that are no longer here through emails, through cards, through pastor visit, if you wanna address that.
Yeah, I think, again, what the Lutheran Church, my perception is, we're not good evangelists. And we have reached out, and I continue to reach out to people who, haven't been here for a very long time. For whatever reasons, even people that move away, we still send them information as long as they want the information to be had. But what we need to learn as a church, and I'm talking church, the couple that sat right where you're sitting, had a good experience today. Your pastor friend had a good experience today. We welcome people well, and it just pleases my heart when I saw people hovering around those people, welcoming him, during the sharing of the peace and afterwards. And that's absolutely needed, but we need to learn to not be as great as welcoming as we need to be more inviting. And what you're addressing right there, that really doesn't, it does have what we need to do as a church, what we can use that money for to come up with a new website that we're doing that will reach out even more to our community. But we need to help us to learn how to invite people. Because again, as you all said, we have a wonderful message, of God's grace. How do we get that out? And this fund, this money that we have, will help us to do that. But money doesn't do it alone. We have to get up out of the seat, and we need to make a phone call or a card or visit or whatever, find ways to invite people, to this place. Absolutely. And churches in general. I don't know. It's not a direct part of what we want to do with that money. Well, it is a direct part, because we can use that money to help us to reach out.
I was a member of I was a member of a congregation that received a huge gift, like 6 figures gift.
We had 6 figures. Yeah. there's-
Oh, well, I guess we got 7 then.
Okay.
Got a lot of zeros.
You wanna make it 8?
Pardon me?
You wanna make it 8?
But anyway, this is before I moved there, but part of what they did with the money is they set some of it aside to help organizations that were helping the community. And so
Okay.
they sent up kind of a grant proposal. And organizations would say what they were doing. There was an adult literacy group, or the local, elementary school that was,
Okay.
you could throw a stone at, or homelessness, battered and abused women. And so part of that money went to help support these groups, and some of it was a few $100, some of it was a few thousand. And I
Sure.
think we all know that giving is down in general, and a lot of nonprofits are struggling. So, you know, that might be a way, because we can't do all of it. There's a lot of groups out there doing a lot of good stuff. And so maybe it would be a way to
Okay.
help other, and plus, get our name out there,
Right.
get, continue that knowledge of the good stuff that we do by helping, helping
Great
somebody
suggestion.
else. Thank you, Mary.
Well, with that money, we're gonna take the 10%, which is $43,000. And we haven't made any decision on how much of that will go to the synod. And the remaining of it, like I said, was going to be used for ministry work, within and without, outside of the church. So that's gonna leave us with $387,000 left after we do that. And that's why the council wants to take the next 4 months or more, hear your all suggestions, be able to talk about it, kind of vision where we want to see St. John's to go, where we want to see it, just a second, where we want to see our ministries going, if we want to create a new ministry, whatever it is, but we want to take the time to hear everybody and make informed decisions so that we're not, like I said, acting in haste. One second, she was first. Yes?
How much does the church owe on the mortgage?
$387,000.
Yes.
Kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yes. So my thought is, why don't we just pay the mortgage off?
There's a lot of talk of that. A lot of people feel that way. That's something that we're considering.
Because at least we'll have the building, and then all the other funds can be help more.
Right, if we pay the mortgage off, then it will free up $2,200 a month, mortgage payment, which could be used for other things. That's been a big, suggestion, I guess I should say. George?
I was just gonna say that 2 council meetings ago, after several hours of discussion,
Yes.
several hours.
Yes.
discussion,
How long?
Not one, not two.
The council made a recommendation that we use this money to first pay back Paul, where we've been borrowing all, we've been paying, what was it?
Laura, did we not do that? Did that been done already?
Well,
Pay-
it'll
Well-
show up next.
Yeah.
But it was to pay back
Right.
money that we borrowed from special funds, and then pay off the mortgage.
Yeah, our original suggestion was to, take that 10% to tithe, some money to synod, other to ministry. Then it was to get ourselves back in the black, and then it was to pay off a mortgage. That was our original suggestion. And then, there was a lot more talk, and so we decided instead of going ahead and doing that right away, we would let calmer heads prevail. And we would put that money into the CD, which is what has already been done, let it gain some interest, and it'll get us a few more thousand by the time it's matured. And then, not saying right away when it matures, we're gonna make a decision, but just, we wanna see where we are financially, so we can kinda know what way to lean on handling that money. Like I said, we can't operate as though we have this 430,000, we have to operate as though we don't have it, because eventually, we'll be right back to where we are right now. Yes,
Okay, two thoughts. One, I think we need to really sincerely look at special funds and why that is so outsized compared to our regular budget.
yes, we have been looking at that.
And talking about that, you know, why, what are special funds being used for? And okay, are those ministries set? Okay, that's great, but if we're not paying our light bill, is it good to have $10,000 sitting and waiting for Sunday school curriculum? Just a thought. So thinking more, the money's been designated, yes, maybe we need to think about moving that. In order to balance things out and relook at that. And to maybe reaching out to regular donors that are giving to special funds to be like, hey, thank you, these ministries are supported, let's keep, you know, going. Two, I think it's really important, I struggle with the idea of like operating like we don't have this money, because we have this money and we have an opportunity. It doesn't change, like, don't change your monthly giving or your weekly giving.
No, we don't want that to
But
happen.
we need to act as good stewards of this.
Right. Yes, Leslie?
I thought I read somewhere that there was an opportunity to invest that money at a higher percentage than what we're, our mortgage. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
So like if our, what is our mortgage?
Our mortgage is at 4.4%.
So if, right now, I mean, there's a lot of the different money markets and bonds and everything that's higher than 4.4%. Currently, I have something that's getting 5.25%. Now granted, that's not a lot, but we could still have some sort of fixed income to pay for the mortgage and still have a little bit left over. I think a wise investment would be, you know, if we're still paying the mortgage on time, but can make a little bit on that money, I think that needs to be reviewed.
Yes, we've looked at investing. I mean, we're looking at everything, and that's why we haven't made any fast decisions right now on what we're gonna do with that money, because we wanted to hear everybody's thoughts and be able to look at everything before we just, you know, spend it. Yes,
And all the calculations we're talking about, has any of that included what we get out of the CD percentage?
No.
because what are we gonna earn, like 18,000 or something?
Well, no, because that would be for a year, but
Yeah.
if it's like 4 months, it would be 6,000.
$6,000 that we're gonna get from that. So, you know, that's another $6,000 that we have to invest.
And we have another $100,000 in another fund that we put in, was it January?
End of February.
End of February, that we had left over from the building account that's at 4% also, so we have that amount, earning a little bit of money also.
That's money that's already part of that mortgage payment, or that mortgage loan amount. That's money left over from the loan.
Yes.
No, it's money left over
From the building fund.
from
Yeah,
the
from the
building
building
fund.
fund.
The building
From
fund,
the loan, yeah.
from the insurance money.
No, from the
No,
mortgage,
if-
from our
From the-
mortgage
from
that
the-
we took out.
That 400,000 was taken out.
Oh, the 400,000 was taken out of the loan. The 100,000 came out of extra funds we had from the leftover insurance money, correct?
But
No, it was
The
left
building-
over from the mortgage. Left
Oh.
over.
Leftover.
Yeah.
Okay, never
So
mind.
it's money
I'll
we're
shut
paying
up now.
interest on.
if we had any money left over from the building fund, we wouldn't have needed the mortgage.
Well, that's true. Okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, because remember, we took that
Yeah,
400,000
we
out
took
for the
that, right,
mortgage.
okay.
Anybody have any other thoughts?
Point, what is this, so now I heard you say a couple times, like, act as if the special fund account is not there. So what's that money for anyway? Like, I mean, I get having a savings account, but my, like, sorry, I can hear Dave Ramsey in my head, he's a mean guy, but whatever, he yells at me and he says, you have to pay your debts down before you put your money in the special fund, the special savings fund, so help me understand why. Like you say, well, we can't pay our debts down because this money's earmarked. What's it earmarked for?
Well, people give to certain things, like people give to certain ministries, we have a list of, Laura has a list of the special funds where people donate money to memorial funds if somebody passes away. They donate it to, you know, camperships. It's earmarked for, and it can only be used for whatever that person suggests that it be used for. So we can't take it and use it for something else because they earmarked it for whatever they earmarked it for. So we have,
But wouldn't we say that if the church isn't functioning, none of those things will happen anyway?
One would
So
hope.
like, we can't do any of that stuff if, so in some place, you have to do the first thing, which is to what it's doing right now. And I mean, I hear you about increased giving and don't disagree at all about that. So we're not off the hook on that, but I think that you can't have a memorial fund if the church isn't open, so.
It seems like, too, maybe anyway, always is almost like a year-long moratorium on giving to special funds, because it sounds like those are good. And so instead of giving to those, even for a year, it would help us kind of dig ourselves out of the hole over it.
May I say something?
Sure.
Sure I can. And we're having those discussions. We talked about that at our last council meeting, you know, about the special funds that we have and the way we do budgets. You know, we have to I believe, that we are to rework how we do a stewardship campaign, how we do a budget. You know, if we want, say, a youth director, we don't put it in a special account fund and give to that. You know, if we want new Sunday school supplies, if we want more this, that, and the other, we build it into the budget, you know, so we don't have all of those, you know, yeah. You know, so get people, you know, you want a youth director, you want a full-time choir director, you want just whatever, we build it into the budget, you know, and present it to the congregation that we, you know, we have a ministry plan, which is what we're going to work on, you know, and I brought this up to the pastors at my last deanery meeting last month, and what would y'all do? And first comment to me was, well, what's your ministry plan? And we're working on one, but we don't have one. So we need to set a ministry plan and then build a budget around the plan. You know, car washes are great. It's wonderful fellowship time. But if we want to $5,000 in a, you know, to a campership fund, we build it into the budget. You know, and Cooper is going to the National Youth Gathering because of that. You know, we build those things into the budget, and all the kids going to Luther Ridge and Luther Rock and Affirm and whatever. We build those things into the budget, and we make our contributions based on the budget and, you know, not just on special things. That way,
some more
everybody
contribution
is
going
involved.
to regular and not so much to the special.
I think part of the reason you say, we have to act like we don't have this is there has, in my opinion, in my background, there has been an instance where a large gift was given, a very large gift was given. So people just quit giving because they knew the money was there.
Right.
They didn't have to.
And that's what we don't want. We don't want people thinking, oh, we've got this 400,000.
Yes.
I don't have to give, or I don't
Right.
have to increase, or whatever, and we don't want that to happen. That's why I'm saying, operate as if we don't have it, because we still need people to continue with their giving, increase if you can. Those who aren't giving, start giving, whatever the case may be. That's why I'm saying operate as if we
Right.
don't have that money, because we don't want people to stop giving because, oh, we've got this big grant.
And that happens. I've seen it happen.
And that's why we don't want that to
I've heard many
happen.
horror stories.
I've seen it happen. So, that's what we do not want.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say that, because we don't want that where people quit giving or decrease giving, or, you know, oh, I can skip a couple months because we've got that 400,000. We don't want that. And so that's why I say we need to operate as though we don't have that money, so we can use that money to do other things and not use that to, you know, have to keep the lights on and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I just want to say, and I've been guilty of this in the past, we've talked at council and pastor
about the special giving. People have their own desires about what they want to give for. We vote for council, we have to trust council that that they're doing and placing these funds where they need to go. Obviously, this reason I joined this church was this church, as the small congregation that it is, we really.
We do a lot.
We do a lot for ministry, and it's very dear to our hearts. So obviously, I believe that is going first, the children are going first, but however, like you said, if we can't pay our pastor, or we can't pay a bill, then we really need to move that money over, and we need to have that flexibility to do that. So, I think, in the long run, if we can kind of get away from some of the special funds, so that, last council meeting, Laura went over, can we move this to here? Can we combine all of Compassion Ministry under one thing? Well, no, Room in the Inn has to be separate, and this has to be, it's crazy, her sheet. And, again, like, I've been guilty of it too. If I didn't bring enough stuff for a Room in the Inn, I write a check to Room in the Inn, but just to understand that you vote for a council, you have to trust that the council and the church, and we're all good people, and we're all here to do what Jesus wants us to do. And I think maybe if we just give it and just let it be where it needs to be most, And I have a hard time making a decision sometimes anyway, like given to World Vision, should I get this, should I get the chicken? I just said, let them, where's the big need? And David said, Marianne, I have a Thrive-In thing ready to go. What's the greatest need? We have to talk about it. Is it, Natalie didn't get anything last month for a Room in the Inn. So is it that? So let's, just to prayerfully think about that.
Yes.
I have a question, because I think in the newsletters and everything, you guys have been very clear about the regular giving is not meeting the monthly expenses, and you talked about that from last year. And I don't know if we know this right now, but once you start to factor in the special giving, what is the difference, and does that bring you to like the necessary level, or is it still below where we need to be at?
It has in the past, but ever since the pandemic and we've been back in the building, it has not. The special giving would not make up for the whole deficit.
Okay.
But in the past, it always has, and that's how we've been able to operate.
But that, I forget the exact number, like it was 100 or 120 that's sitting in a separate CD, that's all like special giving that's just sitting there right now.
No, that's
correct?
loan money.
No, that's loan
That's
money.
That's
Oh,
loan money.
okay. Wasn't there a separate account though,
Yes.
just with like special giving funds that just?
There's a special accounts fund, then we have our regular operating fund, we have that CD, we have the new CD, so we got dab here, dab here, dab there. So, yes, John?
Yeah, I would,
It's kind of unfortunate we have so much money in special giving, but we worry about paying the lights. But I think that the special giving, you should absolutely not use it to pay the lights, because we had made a promise to that person, accept their money to use it for,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
if they want to paint the driveway red. That's what it's for.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And also, I would encourage the council to keep the $430,000 gift separate from increasing our giving. I would want to keep those two issues separate, because we're confusing, we're conflating the two, or bringing the two together, and I don't think that's helping. Last thing is, I think we should have had some slides up here we're trying to also understand how the church budget works and how we pay our bills. So it's become a big mashup. So welcome to St. John's Lutheran Church is good. I think we should have some slides about what the different amounts are and how they're used.
Just one point of clarification I think we need is, I don't know what the balance is in special funds, Laura. What the paper balance is. The paper balance, it shows $100,000. The real money in there is more like 65 or 70,000, because we've been borrowing from it for the last several years. So that's one of the realities. So it's not like we've got a pot of $125,000 that we're not using. It's a lot less than that. The special funds, yet on paper, they're there. But in reality, we have borrowed to $35,000
$35,000.
from that. So we're hoping that the need, I guess, and I'm not on council, so this is the week for all of us. We're hoping that the day doesn't come before we repay those, which is one of the things that the council can do from this gift. But we're hoping that gets repaid before somebody calls on those special funds to do what they were put in there to do.
Right, we want the money to be there so that it's there for what
Yeah.
it's designated for.
We owe that to ourselves.
Yes.
It's like withdrawing money from your 401K. Okay, well, you've got that on paper, but is the money there really? Nope.
And that's been a big topic at our council meetings, of getting us paid back.
And we did that, correct?
And
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, yes.
It'll show up in.
It'll show up, yes.
in the
It's
next-
not,
and
if
the
you look
next
at the reports
report.
now, it's not, but next month it will show up and it's paid
And the
back.
money we paid ourselves back came from undesignated funds in the special accounts, because we had all these different rainy day funds and whatever, so. And, so,
I guess, and this is really just a clarifying question. I guess I'm just having trouble understanding, like, if money is just sitting in these accounts, like, what are example, like, I guess I would think if there's a special gift, right, we would purchase something or have an event or a ministry that's being put on. I guess, how are there funds that are being given, but then they're just sitting kind of indefinitely in an account? I'm trying to understand.
well, like, we have a big memorial fund, and it's people who give to the memorial fund if somebody has passed away. Like, you know, I wanna give X amount of dollars, let's say, for somebody passed away. Then, like, example, the doors out front, you know, memorial money was to get the doors, because somebody had put that money in remembrance of their loved one, and that's how we got doors. That's how we, you know, Bert Cole, he used remembrance. We got the deck.
That was Virgil.
that was
Virgil, I
Virgil.
mean.
The TV.
The TV in the other room was from Bert. But people have designated, you know, to like that fund. There's campership fund, there's, we even have a Coke machine fund,
Handbells.
Handbells.
People give for.
Last year when our mower was stolen, there was a special account, okay, we've got to replace that.
Right,
People gave specifically for, this is to replace
the
that
mower.
piece of equipment that was stolen.
But like, we've purchased those things, they're here, and now
Some of
there's
them.
still some of that
There's
money
still some
sitting around.
funds.
That's, I
Can
don't know,
you
that
explain
just
a little more
is
about-
weird to me.
Maybe.
Well, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, like, for instance, like, people just randomly designate part of their money to go into our Christian growth fund. So that money just goes into Christian growth, and like, when we buy Sunday school curriculum, we take it out of there. And then, like, Pastor has a card group that meets on Friday night, and they donate money, and sorry to call you out on your card game.
Stand up, bud.
I donate a good
There's like
amount to
a card
that.
game group, and every once in a while, they'll decide that they wanna do something with that money, and so they do something with that money, but people will just randomly designate money for things, and then it sits in that account until it's decided that it's needed, or the person wants to do something with it. Does that help at all?
There are accounts, like I said, handbells, accounts for musicians, special music.
We got a lot of money over the pandemic and rebuild from former members and people. There's like $30,000 sitting in music ministry. You know, so that's, and we are paying Joel out of that. We're paying other musicians, I think, out of that too, correct? You know, so those aren't coming out of regular, but that's, I hear your question, and until we rectify that situation.
You know, and I get, people give to things that mean a lot to them, that's important.
Right.
I think if we're going to challenge the status quo on that, it needs to go to the people that don't designate it for a niche item. Trust the leadership that you've elected to make wise decisions with those funds. But that flips back to the people, not necessarily the funds. Once somebody says, this $10 is for A, B, or C, we're kind of obligated. They give you that, specifying that, we're kind of obligated to.
Yeah, I understand that, I just don't understand, like, if we're not gonna do that, then we're just letting it sit there forever, that's,
Oh, no.
that's what I.
No, it's being used.
Yeah.
It's being used.
Like, money was donated for the playground, and so we've built this playground. There is some money in there, but it's designated for playground, so if we have to do maintenance on the equipment or whatever, we can go to that fund because it's designated as playground and take that money out because of that person designated it specifically for the playground. So
When
we
we
can't,
have to do maintenance, not if.
well, of course.
Hopefully not anytime soon.
It's
So
like-
the bottom line is we need to increase our giving,
There you go.
Well,
Even what,
as always. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
you know.
what was the deficit last year?
I agree with that, and I'm gonna respectfully
24
disagree with
some
that.
thousand.
We need, yes, we do need to give as we are able. And trust me, everybody's been affected by what's going on
Brought
in the
over
world.
24,
You
almost
know,
25,000 last year, 24,000.
What will help is opening our mouths and inviting people, letting people see what we do, invite people to come here to be a part of what we're doing, so it's not to just pay the bills, people, it's not.
Amen.
We're all struggling in this world, and to change the world, which we, make no mistake, and I'm sorry, no, I'm not. We are called to change the world. We are called to bring more love, hope, and peace into our world. We have a great message to do that. You have a pretty good pastor who tries to teach that, and live that, and now it's your turn, people. I'm sorry, it is your turn. I'm very passionate, and I've not been this passionate in a very long time. To this degree, because I want our world changed. I don't want, my pastor friends, worrying about their churches. Don't worry, yeah.
St. Philip.
Whatever.
St. Philip.
Yeah.
I don't want churches to, we need to bring more peace. So yes, we do need to increase as we can, and some people have to decrease as they are. Kathy's retired. We don't give what we used to give. Can't. But if we had 25 more people in here, giving $10 a piece,
Amen.
That was the
and-
point you were trying to make.
which is the
Reaching
point
out
you're
to
trying to
people who
make,
aren't here.
which is what this money is going, directly and indirectly, is going to help us do. We don't have to worry about paying the bills, but we can't live as if, we gotta live as we don't have it, so we can be the church God calls us to be, to reach in, to help each other, to reach out to help our world. And that's the bottom line. That is what the Church of Jesus Christ is all about.
I can't help but think that the amount of this money that was given, that's not a random number. They came up with a number of what they gave to us. I feel like part of that has to be because they thought they were helping to pay a mortgage or pay a
Well, if you
need.
take 10% off and you got $387 $1,000 left over, and our mortgage is $387,000. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure what God has done. Now, I'm not saying we're going to do that today. We cannot do that today. But that's why we want to get other ideas. If there's something better. God has been. Okay, I'm going to shut up.
Listen instead of talk.
Huh?
I said we should listen more.
Yes.
Yeah, Daphne and I are new here, but maybe we've reached a point in this discussion where we table it and the
recommendation from the congregation are emailed to Natalie, and church council comes back after discussing the recommendations in, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 weeks, and they do a PowerPoint presentation for the congregation to explain some of the monetary situations and the special funds, because sometimes the picture is better if you've got it in front of you. And because I don't think we're gonna solve anything today, we just need to, I think we discussed it pretty good. I think we just need to look at it from the standpoint, what do people think, and get that information over to church council.
I don't know, she and I are competing for.
All right, what, go.
So, I heard what your pastoral plan is. Your pastoral plan is to grow, and it's Sunny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and to Sunny's point, we can all reach out individually, but in my business, we would market.
Right.
And so,
Right.
because it's very noisy out there right now, and we can all do that, I go, and I know Jennifer does too, we go to Donaldson, we say, come to St. John's, whenever someone asks for a church, but I'm competing with First Baptist, I'm competing with da-da-da-da. One of my ideas of what to do if you want to increase the exposure of what we're doing is to we pay off the mortgage fine, then take $400 a month from what would be the mortgage payment to pay a social media specialist to elevate the post that you're doing. You can't do that on your own, Pastor. You're pretty good at it, but I tell you, the youngsters are better. So
Right, absolutely.
They can get you on the TikToks and the whatevers and show, hey, look at what's happening, and do the tags and so I mean, I don't even do it for my work because I'm too old. So, but that would be my recommendation about in this noisy area with a lot going on, you know, in Tennessee where you can't throw a rock and not at a church, you're gonna need something like that if you wanna reach out into the community and the people know how to do sort of specialized, you know, just elevate the voice. I know it sounds crass, I get it. I know word of mouth is better, but honestly, all my friends on Facebook don't live here. None of them. Like, I've got 5 people that I know that,
Right.
and most of them go here. So, you know, that would be my recommendation, to say that we want to grow, then the website is a good idea. But being one of the problems I've always had is socially, we're not very consistent with our time messaging. Like, I'll go and look for something and be like, okay, what's this week? And then I go to the Facebook page and it's not there. That's not anybody's fault because you're doing it. But if somebody else is doing it, then maybe there's a consistent, these are the activities. I do the same for yoga class. What are we doing this week? What are the classes? You know, you have to have those in the places where people go, which is Instagram and Facebook and the TikTokers and the who knows what. But that would be some of my recommendation about hearing kind of what the congregation is saying. We want to grow. We do have a good message. We do have a good story. The person who's doing that will take the visuals of feeding the schools and things like that, and that it does make us different from some of the other outreaches here. I also did like the idea of, I mean, I hear so often, particularly on the socials, I need $3,000 to pay my bills and stuff like that. I don't know that this church can do that, but the organizations in Middle Tennessee, if we can say $50,000 goes to these different places that do that help the people with the rent that are in crisis and then that extends our reach a little bit of the housing and so forth. But anyway, that's my 2 bits.
In all of our conversations, I'm hearing several goals. And I feel like we kind of need to organize that and put that plan into action. That's what we're kind of sitting here doing. We need to step up our giving, whether that be 1% or maybe $10. Maybe you're not giving anything, maybe that's $10. So that'd be goal number 1, to put that into action. Goal number 2 would be to make us more inviting. How do we get, like she said, how do we get our name out there? How are we getting our name out there? And those other things. And number 3 is, how do we become more fiscally responsible? And maybe part of that is we put a moratorium. We can no longer accept special donations. We are moving towards, I'm not saying we're doing this, I'm just saying what I'm hearing from a lot of people. we do a moratorium, maybe it's a temporary one, maybe we decide it's a permanent one, we're moving, this is our goal, we're moving towards, our monies are in one account, and then we buy, and it will eventually get designated to what you care about, but it all goes into one pot, and we elect our people who are trustworthy, and we want them to make sure we are paying our bills, that we are solvent, we are making sure Christian Growth has what they need, that the music ministry has what they need, that we are giving to Room in the Inn, that we are tithing, that we are doing all these other things we wanna do. Those are the 3 goals that I've heard.
That's what we've been starting to discuss.
Yes, out of all of this is the main 3 goals. Almost every person I've heard spoke, those 3 come into play. So I kind of feel like that's something that you now as a council will go, okay, we've got these 3 goals, and now how do we make this work?
Right, that's what we've been discussing partially in our meeting.
Just my opinion, I think we need to look at the bigger picture and pay the mortgage off, because I think that would slowly help with all the other things that we want to do. That would give us the money to do more outreach and be in the community more, because if we have a place to worship, then we can get people in here, and we won't have to worry about that mortgage payment or losing it. But just my thought.
Just to reiterate what she was saying about social media, there you go. There have been Sundays when I was a greeter, when people would come in at the end of our service and say, but your website said you started it. And this is an old, there's an old website out there
That
that
pops
is.
up every so often.
Well, how do we get rid of that? How do we get that off of our
Yeah,
website?
we keep trying, we don't know.
Is there somebody that can help us do that?
We will.
Because it happens.
We're working on that.
We're working on that,
Okay.
and,
It wasn't just a simple answer of call this person, they can turn it off.
yeah.
Okay.
And just to, if I can just address you real quick, Shannon, we have the media guy that is doing our website, he is moving us in that direction. He will be doing updating, not Anita, not myself, as we move forward into that. You're exactly right, you know, we have to be a social presence.
I'm not sure who the expert is here on Robert's Rule of Orders and that kind of stuff. And the guy who called it has left now. Okay? But some discussion ago, a recommendation was made that we table further discussion with recommendations to be sent to the council and that kind of stuff, and the council to come back and do a presentation in a month or 2 that gives more light on special funds and this money and everything else. So now,
Do you want
that recommendation was made. I'm not sure where we need to go with it, or if we're gonna ignore it,
Formal motion needs to be
or do we
made.
need to,
Yeah, you have to have
we
a-
need to
I haven't
vote
heard
on
a
that
formal motion.
recommendation?
Are you making a formal?
I move
Thank you.
Can I say something? I'm not sure we were ever called to order of a regular meeting. So I think this is just discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I think it was just an informative meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah, nobody had a rule.
So we're trusting the council to do what,
And we're trusting everybody to bring their thoughts to
Marcia has
council.
some.
I just want to say I applaud council for the way this is being handled.
Yes.
I appreciate the fact that we've all been given the chance to hear and listen. And being a longtime member, this is probably one of the most informal meetings I've been to, just because there's lots of stuff that got discussed that needs to be addressed. But I applaud all of you who are on council. I know this was maybe not the original plan, but it's a great one now.
From
Our
stewardship.
beans are about to burn.
from
Jim
stewardship.
has something real quick.
Yeah, just real quick, I don't think we can ignore what Dan's comments, and I think we've heard a lot of comments about special funds, our budget, the analysis on giving and, you know, our debt ratio. I don't think we can ignore that, and what I would want, and it's not a recommendation, I'm just asking perhaps council should consider making a presentation, slide presentation or something, just on something where you can visualize.
Right.
And I think that would alleviate some of the questions, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just one other thing, I also want to congratulate council for all the hard work. I know it's tough, we're in a tough position here, and they've done a lot of analysis and a lot of time and effort. Thank you for that. What I would like to see, because of the enormous amount of money we've been given, is that council consider, once they complete their analysis, whether it's inside or whether they go outside and get some help, I don't know. Once they consider and make their analysis, that they bring it to the congregation as a recommendation and have the congregation vote on it. And the reason I say that is the congregation approves the budget. And the budget is a document that says, here's how much money we're going to spend, and here's where we're going to spend it. So I think that, plus the fact that I think there's a lot of interest within the congregation to have input and to have a final say. I think, me personally, to put all this on council is too much. It's too big of a decision, and I'd like council to consider bringing it, once they've done their analysis, bring it to the congregation. So.
From Stewardship, I would just like to say, I hear everyone, when you talk about paying off the mortgage, that that's a good thing, cutting it off. But don't think that gets you in the clear. If we were roughly 25,000 down last year, the annual for the monthly payment is only about 26,000. That's not, if 2,200 a month.
2,200 a month.
So a little bit over 26,000. That's not a big margin. If we pay off the mortgage and say, hey, okay, everything's great, we can do all this other stuff. No, we can't. Until we push ourselves to provide the resources, we are not going to be able to do all these things to reach out. And just my opinion, when the gospel says, I came to so you should have life and life more abundant, that didn't say, I'm calling you to have a life that's all cush and easy. Abundant can mean challenging. We have to challenge ourselves. And as I said up there, yeah, we are going to challenge ourselves financially, what we do with our talents, what we do with our time. Nobody wants you to drop it all in one basket. But try to achieve that balance, knowing that you're going to push that comfort zone. So.
Dick?
I've been here a little over 36 years, definitely not the senior member here, but the original purchasers of this property also purchased the property adjacent to us. We're paying taxes on vacant property that is set there, and let alone the maintenance that goes with it. We've got enough there to pay everything off, probably build a new sanctuary. We've heard all kinds of things that could happen to that property. I've been on church council several times. We've been in debt ever since I've been here. We'll always be in debt. We've got a way to eliminate that. Just a thought.
Well, I think it's probably time to end this,
Move to adjourn.
and all your questions, thoughts, send them to council so we can go over them, and then we'll,
Can I-
sure.
Just so it gets brought up in this, I'm sitting at, as Pastor Chase has, I put on my property chairman hat, which is, other than Sunday school teacher, is the only official hat I'll wear. We've got a 50-year-old parking lot out there that is, we've been kicking that can down the road for a long time. We have a quote to repair it, actually to resurface it, which is something we've never done. So that and connecting the two parking lots without going out on the road, we're talking around $100,000. And that's none of the mission, that's none of, that's just maintaining what we have. And even if you only do the resurfacing and restriping, that was, I want to say 72,000 in round numbers. So just, it's not just mission, and it's not just, and as Buzz was saying, if we pay off the mortgage and pay back the special funds, it just gets us back to zero. And if we don't, from like a business standpoint, we don't increase income, we'll be here, this is in 2027 again, maybe 2028, facing the same questions, same issues. So, back to what I think you were saying, is to find a way, one of the three issues is to find more income, more contributions. And yeah, if you grow membership, you're gonna do it, but we've done a pretty poor job of growing membership. No offense to the new members, but between the tornado and the lockdown from COVID and people just moving around, we were growing, but we were growing very, very slowly. Not enough to do what we need to do mission-wise. So I'll shut up now.
All right,
Thanks.
Buzz, did you?
Just on that, yeah, even if we sell the property on the other side of the creek, that may put it off 10 years. But we'll still be back, if we sell it, we'll still be back at that same point again unless we change the baseline.
Well, I think from what I'm hearing from everybody is that council will go ahead and take all your suggestions, make a presentation with visuals, and come back. So.
Thank you, Dan.